What's up, y'all? Today I'm recording a video on the global challenges. Now, in the next 2 days, signups will close for the second global challenge. You might be asking what the global challenges are. The global challenges are temporary ladders that are put up for 3 days, where everyone across the world can play against each other. It is close team sheet. It's best of one, so it's a little bit different than what you might be used to, but it is very, very fun. I'll say, like, a couple rage-inducing moments aside, you know, it is quite fun to play in these and to participate. Today I'm going to be talking about what the global challenges are, how you can play in them, a little bit of a meta analysis going into the global challenges, and then finally just some tips and tricks. So to get involved in the global challenge, you need to have signed up before 4 p.m. PST on the 29th, which means you should have about 2 days to do it from the start of this video. Steps are here. Launch your game, open the X menu, open Poke Portal, Battle Stadium, online competitions. From online competitions, select search for competition, and it'll be the only competition, so you can't get that wrong. Again, it's split up into age divisions. I believe junior and senior are put together, and then the Masters division is the one you most likely are going to be participating in. You get some prizes, I guess. I've never been a big fan of prizes. I don't care too much, but you know, they are there. The first global challenge was a month ago, and as you can see, Japan dominates. Just to put it plain and simple, Japan dominates. Asia dominates. Here's Korea. Japan absolutely everywhere. This is Taiwan, I believe. Anyways, Japan dominates. What do you need to know about this? Now, at the end of the global challenges, at the end of the 3 weeks, the global challenges last from Friday to Sunday. At the end of that Sunday, the standings do get put up in the next couple days, and the Japanese players are removed from the standings. As you can see, the Japanese players are playing for something else. They're playing for different prizes. They're playing to play in the Japan Nationals. Now, what this means is that the Western players and the players outside of Asia are playing for CP. CP is the competition points. That's not what it stands for, but it is the point system that we have in Pokemon, and we're all playing towards. So after the Japanese players are removed, a new set of standings is created without the Japanese players, and some people are opted out of ranking. As you can see, this player is from Canada, but they were opted out of ranking, so those players are removed as well, and everyone moves up to their position. As you can see, this player got second place, but got the maximum prize of 160 CP, which is the maximum prize. We'll look at the prizes after, but as you can see, it's a lot of CP. Huge amount of talent. I think it's funny. This is one of my first times looking at it, but Canada is doing much better than the US. You know, we have 2 Canadian players. That's pretty cool. Canada rep. I didn't see this before. That's pretty cool. Now, regardless, here are the championship points. The amount received. Quite a lot actually. Like, this is second place at a regional. To win one of these, right? Now it's not easy. It's not easy. If it was so easy, you know, it wouldn't be worth this many points. But now, if I had to put money on the line that you queue into an opponent in the GC, and I put about a 70% chance that you see one of these 4 teams, and we'll talk about them in good detail. Now, one of the first teams you should see quite a lot, and honestly, I'd be hard pressed if this wasn't the most common 6 or the most common 5 Pokemon in the GC. I believe this is what won the GC. This is what a lot of Japanese players have been using. This is Taro Okada spreads, and his sets. As you can see, very standard, very standard. I don't expect any crazy changes from this 6. From this 5, sorry. Like, you should know that Urshifu's Choice Scarf at this point. You should know that Defensive Terra is very common on these Urshifu. Stellar Terra, Adam, and Chien-Pao has proven to be the choice for a lot of players, so you should be aware of this. You should be constantly aware of the fact that the Chien-Pao could go for one of these stellar boosted attacks. Calm Mind Raging Bolt is another set that catches a lot of people off guard. Now you know. You should know that this is Calm Mind a lot of the time. Now, every other set is pretty basic. I'm not saying that this is the only way to play the team. This is the only sets that are usable, but this is the most common sets. I'd say like 60 to 70% of the sets you run into should be the same that I have down here. EV should be pretty similar too. Like, for example, one of the characteristics of this team is that the Rillooms are generally extremely, especially bulky with Assault Vest. So if you expect to do damage against this Rillaboom on these builds, well, think again, because yeah, very bulky. The final Pokemon on these 6 tends to be Lando I with Life Orb, very standard Life Orb Terra Poison set. I have seen Sylveon. I have seen. I was using Gholdengo with Amoonguss. Gholdengo is kind of a thing now on this. Fluttermane, another very common 6 Pokemon. But yeah, most common 6 Pokemon is gonna be Landorus I. That's the original Pokemon on this build. But people have been switching that around. Another common set change you might see is Assault Vest on here with Electro Web or Thunderbolts, Snarl, the Snarl set, and then with Miracle Seed. Yeah, so this is extremely common as well. This might be Terra Grass. That might be the other change, but on a lot more offensive, like max attack. These are probably the biggest set changes. I think the Urshifu Terra type you can never count on. I've been seeing Steel quite a lot, but Water is very common. Grass, I've seen quite a bit. The other extremely common Terra type I've seen is Ghost. So I'm not gonna say don't let that deter you from faking out Urshifu. Like, don't let that be the reason you don't fake out an Urshifu. But be aware that this is a set that is out there, and it is extremely dangerous, especially in Best of One, which is why I'm pointing it out. While it might not be the most common, it is way more threatening in Best of One. So just be aware that this is a set. Otherwise, I'd say Tailwind is the most notorious GC team, and the reason I don't have sets here is because honestly, they can be anything. So I'd like to go over some common sets with all these Pokemon. I'd say these are like the most common Pokemon on Tailwind. These are the Pokemon that kind of make up Tailwind. Might not be the most common, but these are the kind of Pokemon that you think of when you think of Tailwind abusers. Let's start with Tornadus. Tornadus generally runs either Cobra Cloak, or Rocky Helmet. I like these are just the 2 common items. The reason being, both of them are extremely good in a close team sheet setting. It almost always gets value in every game. Rocky Helmet even more so. Nowadays, most are running Protect. I'd say you would be more likely to find a Tornadus with Protect than without. Most common Terra types end up being Ghost if you don't have Cobra Cloak. Steel, even if you don't have Cobra Cloak, Steel is probably still more popular, even on Rocky Helmet, if that makes sense. Common movesets. They're never dropping Weak Wind. They're never dropping Tailwind. If Protect is the most common, on average, you can assume that the Tornadus on the opposing side has 1 mystery move. A mystery move being anything of their choice. A Taunt. Rain Dance is quite common. Leer is a little bit of a thing. My point is, if you're running into a Tornadus, Icy Wind is another really common. If you're running into a Tornadus and you see them click a move that isn't very common on these, or like a move that isn't one of these 3, you can almost always, I'll say almost always. This is like very bad practice to just put all your marbles on the red because this. But if a play requires you to assume, so you can assume after seeing a 4th move of Icy Wind or Taunt or Rain Dance this is the Tornadus moveset. It's gonna be Bleak Wind, Tailwind, Protect, and then their mystery move. Now, this is just close team sheet habits. This is just me trying to tell you that due to the fact that this Pokemon runs 3 moves so commonly, the 4th move, once revealed, you should be aware of the full moveset at that point. I said that a little bit weird. That's a little bit of a word salad. I hope that reaches the right audience, especially the type that's trying to learn Best of One. But yeah, that's my Best of One advice to you, right? Especially if you are aware of a Pokemon that has such a common moveset. These 3 moves are almost always on this Pokemon. Okay. Anyways, Fluttermane, very common on this as well. It'll run a couple things. Choice Specs, Classic, Booster Energy, both Speed and Special Attack. Now, what are the characteristics of a Booster Speed and a Booster Special Attack Flutter? Booster Special Attack will commonly run this set of moves. Almost always run this set of moves, honestly. You'd be hard pressed to find a Fluttermane that doesn't run this set of moves. And almost always run Terra Fairy. Maybe Defensive Terra, like I'd say some of them run Defensive Terra. I've seen Terra Water sometimes, but Defensive Terra not very common. The other set is Booster Speed. I put Booster Energy again. But if you see Booster Speed, the most common moveset these days, I'd say, are Icy Wind, Taunt. Now, the Taunt slot could change. I'd say you always see Moonblast, you always see Icy Wind, and you should usually see Taunt. Now, Taunt can be Shadow Ball. Taunt can be Dazzling Gleam, is another move I've seen on here. My point is, Very, very, very standard. You should just expect. You see booster speed, you should expect Icy Wind, Moonblast, whatever third move. Third move shouldn't usually affect any air plans unless you're like a Trick Room team. Anyways, very, very, very standard. Gholdengo, one of my favorite Pokemon. Gholdengo right now on Tailwind has a couple unique sets. I will say you see Metal Coat with Nasty Plot quite a bit. Just gives it a setup mode against things like Tailwind, against things like Trick Room, against things like Balance. Just a very good, anti-balance Pokemon. This is a very common set you can see. The unfortunate thing about Gholdengo is it runs choice specs just as often. I'd say like you really can't know for sure unless they reveal it. Oh, not choice specs. The choice spec set. Now the choice spec set will very commonly just run 3 sacks and Trick. I think Focus Blast is what some people are running. I think Dazzling was also runnable with Terra Fairy. That could be quite interesting. Trick is pretty commonly the final move. I mean, tricking a Rillaboom is. I use Rillaboom as the example, but generally just Pokemon that both rely on their item and just can't do much against Gholdengo, just get tricked. So Trick is very, very common, I'd say, especially in close team sheet. I'd say those are 2 most common sets. Life Orb does kind of get run, though Metal Coat is probably the more common offensive item. Metal Coat. Terra Fairy. Terra Fairy is also very common on this Pokemon, so yeah. Urshifu. Now Urshifu, I don't think I need to go into too much depth with Urshifu. It'll run both forms on this team. When you see this thing in team preview, unfortunately due to close team sheet being unable to tell you which form it is, you can't tell for sure which one you're facing against. You can tell by a couple key things, like if, for example, if they have another water type, more often than not they will be darkerish. But that's not for sure. That's not for certain. That's just using our close team sheet eyes and being aware of common trends. Doesn't mean that's for sure. Just because you see Ogerpon or just because you see water type doesn't mean the Urshifu in front of you is a dark Urshifu. And dark Urshifu will most commonly run Sash. Honestly, this is probably the most common item it'll run with Terra Dark. Terra Stellar kind of gets used. 3 attack, Wicked Blow, Sucker, Close Combat, Protect. Most common Urshifu set with Dark. Rapid now, on the other hand, will usually run Scarf. I'd say Scarf is probably the most common item right now. Usually offensive Terra, especially on Tailwind, usually coupled with Rain Dance. That's a couple things you should know. Searching, Aqua Jet, Close Combat, U-Turn. Most common set. Aqua Jet will sometimes get dropped for Ice Spinner. So that's, you should know that, especially on Dragonite players. Dragonite players always assume that they're safe in front of the Urshifu until it clicks Ice Spinner. So to my Dragonite players, please be aware that these things run Ice Spinner. Now, I just like to talk about 2 other Pokemon I'd say are increasing in usage, especially on Tailwind. Arcanine, Regidrago. Especially in the GC, people love running these Pokemon because Arcanine is just very under-prepared for, I'd say. Especially, Banned Rock Slide, Banned Flirt Blitzes are extremely hard to resist. It's very, very hard to stop this Pokemon, so Arcanine is very, very common. Normally run Terra Fairy. Extreme Seed, last move, always. Regidrago. People love Regidrago in GC. I don't know why. I don't know why y'all love Regidrago in GC. But most common item will be Dragon Fang, with the Steel or Poison Terra, defensive Terra, of course. But this is GC exclusive. I'm not gonna say why. I have no clue why. But some people love running Choice Scarf on this thing. In GC in specific, with Terra Dragon. Why do people do this? Because Regidrago isn't actually all that threatening, even in Tailwind, if you can manage speed control. Now, what Scarf Regidrago does is you maintain most of the damage with Terra Dragon. If you need that Dragon Fang damage, you should get it with the Terra. You do more damage. You do of course have to burn Terra, but Terra's a resource anyway. What people assume is with Choice Scarf, you also win the mirror. So all I'm saying is like I wouldn't be too scared about the fact that the Regidrago from you might be Scarf, but I have seen this item come way more in GC than in normal games. So that's my warning to you. Let's quickly talk about some unique pieces on Trick Room and some Dondozo, and then we'll talk about some GC tips. Now, Trick Room, the one weird thing about Trick Room is it honestly will run so many random assortments of Pokemon. Like, I feel like Trick Room players kind of like have a secret club they meet up in and they like discuss what they're gonna pick for the next event. Like, I kind of don't get it, right? Like, every time the Trick Room players seem to be synced in on what they like. Last GC, Trick Room players, y'all loved Assault Vest Persona. I don't know if this is gonna be super common, but I have never seen this in open team sheet. But close team sheet players love this set. This set right here, they love this set. I have kind of seen, I saw one Terrified. I know this is super common. I don't think it's too common. It's probably just Terra normal. But Assault Vest, y'all love this because it's so bulky. Firstly, you can invest in bulk. You can make it like 36 modest and invest in bulk. That's one of the cool things you can do with this Pokemon. And then you can spam more Hyper Voices. Like more Hyper Voices, more wins. Let's just keep it real. Vacuum Wave is an extremely strong cheese move. Close Team Sheet, love, like Zashim's running Quick Attack back in Series 12. Like if you can get priority, you can get the jump on your opponent. Very, very strong. But yeah, this is an extremely common set. This is an extremely common set in GC1. I expect it'll be good again because it's just very strong. But yeah, this is a Trick Room piece. This whole showcase is just gonna be Trick Room pieces that you might not know what they do at team preview. This is my heat to you. If you see a team that doesn't look extremely like blow up in your face team, I would expect Assault Vest Ursaluna. Not all the time, like I wouldn't expect it more often than just regular Ursaluna, but Assault Vest Ursaluna is extremely common. So don't expect your Moonblast to Oko. Big mistake is expecting the Moonblast to Oko. The other thing is, don't expect Ursaluna to always protect, especially in GC. A lot of players will just assume that when it's beside a Fair Giraffe, or when it's beside a Cresselia, Ursaluna is going to protect. Not in GC. That's all I'll tell you. Not in GC. These guys don't like clicking protect at all. Especially because they have Assault Vest some of the time, so they can't click protect. You get my point. Another Pokemon is Gallade. This is kind of the most common set. Light Down. Clear Amulet, Sharpness, 135 base, Sacred Sword. Ridiculous. Wide Guard, I think it almost always runs Wide Guard, almost always runs Trick Room. Psycho Cut, I'd say this is the most common set, just be aware. Another very common Pokemon, I say very common Pokemon, another common anti-meta Pokemon, I guess, on Trick Room is Annihilate. Just this is the most common set probably. Max speed, max HP, just to be able to find the gamut on things. If you lead it alongside Trick Room, you can kind of expect it to be this. Otherwise, like Boost Energy Iron is kind of in a thing. Ice Punch is very, very common on these builds. Urshifu with Power Band. I wouldn't say this is super common, but if you do see it on Trick Room, it's usually either Power Band or Choice Scarf. That's the kind of that's kind of the gamble you have to take, right? Both are extremely good. I'll tell you why Power Band's good. One of the most common ways to beat Trick Room is to protect on it. What does Urshifu do? It inhibits protect. So under Trick Room, this thing can be a real monster. I wouldn't count this out. So yeah, Power Band Urshifu, very, very. I want to say very, very. I don't know why I'm saying very, very common, but it has been a thing for quite a while too. It's been a thing for a very long time. Finally, I don't know what it is with GC. People run Percussion sometimes. I'm not going to elaborate. I'm not even going to talk about it because I don't think it's worth talking about. People will sometimes run Percussion. Whatever. Be aware. Be aware, y'all. I swear that I'm not lying. I swear I'm not lying to y'all. Now, finally. Big the Bad Dondozo. Now, I made a Dondozo team where I took the most common Dondozo partners, the most common Dondozo sets, and the most common Dondozo spreads. That I'd expect from my opponent. If I had to put money on it, this is what me, as a VGC player, that I think I'm pretty good at the game. I think I played for a while. I played against Dondozo for a while. If I had to put my money on 6 sets, and the most common Dondozo partners with their sets, it'd be this. Now, I'd say Dondozo right now, especially in GC, just runs Terra Fairy because Dark Ursh is too strong, and Dondozo loses too heavily to it. You need Terra Fairy. I'd say, like, I'd be very, very surprised if people weren't running Terra Fairy or Terra Grass. Terra Grass is, of course, the very standard one. Terra Grass is kind of a thing. If I had to put a moveset, it'd just be this. Be aware. I wouldn't say this is the most common. It might not be the most common, but be aware of these fast ass Dodos, bro. Be aware, bro. Be aware, because this is a thing. They go Jolly max speed to outspeed your Chien-Paos. If you go Jolly, you'll be completely fine. Jolly's not an issue. If you are Adamant Chien-Pao, you are at risk. Adamant or Modest Futterman. Modest Futterman as well. You guys are at risk of being outsped by the Dondozo. So just be aware. I wouldn't say change your spreads for it. If you have a reason to run Adamant, then continue running Adamant. I wouldn't say Dondozo is such a big issue that you need to change up your spreads. But be aware. That's all I'm telling you. Most common 4 moves on Tatsugiri. But Choice Specs, for some reason, people love Choice Specs in GC. I'll tell you why Choice Specs is strong. Choice Specs is strong because in close team sheet, you kind of have to play around the opponent having Choice Scarf. Choice Scarf Tatsugiri. Now, what does this look like? This looks like saving your priority attackers. For example, while Dragonite might not be very strong in the matchup, you might be forced to bring it due to the fact that you expect the Tatsugiri to have Choice Scarf. So you can outspeed an Oko with Stream Speed. Now the Dondozo players have caught on to this, and they just started running choice specs because they've realized if you are gonna sit, if I'm in a position where my Tatsugiri has choice scarf and it needs to win the end game, more likely than not it's going to lose because of the fact that my opponent is aware of the fact that I have choice scarf and is going to use countermeasures to choice scarf. So I might as well run choice specs, which does more in situations where I can actually possibly win the end game than it will with choice scarf. Again, word salad. My point is, people like running choice specs, and it is a thing. I wouldn't be more aware of this than choice scarf. I'd say choice scarf is still far more common, but these smart players will have realized at this point that you are playing around choice scarf, and they will have switched to choice specs to do more damage. Again, word salad, but it is a thing that I'm warning you guys about. Chiyu, I mean, it almost always runs either Life Orb or choice specs. Life Orb always run Protect, of course, but Fair Ghost, very, very common. Fluttermane will normally be booster speed on this. I'd say this is the most common moveset. Taunt, just very, very powerful. I'd say Shadow Ball is the other, of course. Third move. Almost always booster speed. Dragonite, I'd be more aware of Aqua Jets in GC. It can be very strong to just pick off a 1 HP opponent that doesn't expect it. Otherwise, never fake out Dragonites. Of course, they're almost always gonna be inner focus. And Genpao, very common set. I'd say be more aware of Jolly. Genpao, I feel like they're getting more and more powerful, more and more common just to win endgames more often. But yeah, be aware. I'd say these are the most common Pokemon on Dozo. I wouldn't say these 6 together are the most common anymore. You'll most likely see like this, and then like Teal Master Gogopon, with Popa Cloak maybe, or Life Orb. Life Orb is also pretty common on this. The other cool thing on Tatsugiri people do is also run Life Orb with Protect, and I think what you can do is run Muddy Water, Taunt. This is really cool. This is a really cool set. I'd say this is like a very cool idea. But otherwise, you know, if I had to put my money on 4 teams you'd run into most of the time, it'd be these 4. Practice against these 4. Be aware of these 4. Be aware of what they do. Be aware of their pieces. Like Trick Room, for example, I didn't include the most common pieces. These are just unique pieces, I'd say, because Trick Room runs with so many shooters. They got so many shooters. They got shooters from every part of the country, I swear. So many Pokemon 58 Gen of Trick Room that I would not be surprised if you saw like teams with multiple of these Pokemon. Why I say these like are unique Pokemon, I wouldn't be surprised if you see teams with like both Ursaluna and Gallade, and the Ursaluna has its own best, right? Like it's just, yeah, no, they run deep. They run very deep, and don't piss off a Trick Room player because God, dude, I swear they're in every hood. Anyway, like, I'm just playing with y'all. Anyways, finally, I just like to put down some tips and tricks from myself as someone who's won a regional, as someone who's done well at Worlds, as someone who does well in these online competitions objectively. I'm not trying to brag. I'm just explaining to you what where this is coming from. Anyways, 3 tips. Number 1, take breaks, please, y'all. I see way too many of y'all that play all your 15 games, post it on Twitter, and complain about it. Let's be real, bro. I wonder why you're doing so much more poor than you think you do. Taking breaks is just the best thing you can do, honestly. If you have a tilting game, there's some games you just can't control. Let's keep it real. Hacks is real. Hacks is a thing that happens in the game, right? You can get unlucky. You can make a bad call. You know, your opponent can have a really weird set that just costs you the game. You can be upset, and I know some people's opinion on the game is like, don't be upset. You know, you're never allowed to be upset, right? Be upset, but take that out somewhere else, right? Like, too many people queue a game, lose a game, get upset, and then queue another game, right? That's not the correct way to cope. And we have to do better. So take breaks. You know, just practice healthy habits even through the game, right? Like a lot of people, they assume that you should, you know, they'll have their routines for themselves outside of Pokemon, but fail to realize that, you know, Pokemon is just as receptive of these habits. You know, common habits such as being patient, taking breaks. All these are just as good in Pokemon as they are in real life. So I don't mean to lecture y'all, but please take some breaks, bro. My second very big piece of advice, and this is from someone who's made this mistake so many times. Please have a goal in mind, bro. Having a goal in mind will completely change your game. I'll tell you why, and specifically in the GC, I'll tell you why. If you have played in the GC, you've most likely been in a position where you scored extremely high, and you get greedy and feel like you could go even further. I'll be real with you. Only one person wins the event. But there's going to be a lot of people within that top 100 and top 50. say about 50 players in the top 50. My point is, it's alright to achieve strong standings and not hunt for number 1. You really don't got to. And where this ties into taking a goal is, a lot of people won't realize where they want to stop, right? Because they haven't exactly thought to themselves, right? They'll hit 1700 in the GC and they'll be like, where do I go from here? They'll have so many games remaining. 1700 for those who are uninitiated, it's a pretty strong score, right? They'll be at 1700, they'll have multiple games left to play. Oh yeah, and just for y'all that don't know, you get 15 games a day to play. They will have like 30 games left to play. They'll be extremely high up, and then they just won't know when to stop, right? So make a goal, right? If, for example, your goal can be in a couple ways. Your goal can be a standing, right? For example, I want to score within the top 150 after Japanese players is removed. That's a good goal, right? Another goal you could do is a rating. I want to hit 1700 this GC because I was unable to hit it last. Another thing could be CP, quite simply. If your thing is you want to get points, your goal setting can be based off of points. Now, all this ties in, again, the way this all ties into is the second you hit your goal, just give it a break. I'm not saying like stop playing, but please give it a break, right? Like think about it. Think about if this is what you want to do, right? I'm not gonna completely say that you're completely foolish for hitting your goal of, for example, 50 CP. If my goal is 50 CP, if I hit that 50 CP bar and I have a ton of games remaining and I feel good, take a break, think about it, and if you think this is a good idea, then go ahead, play a couple more games. But I'm just saying, at least have a goal in mind so you know where to stop and where to think, right? Now finally, and this is to my people who still have not locked in a team, use something with options. I'll tell you why people will lock in this balance team. Because it has so many options, right? Just to put it simply, right? You have so many win conditions, you have so many options to play off of, you have so many ways to play the game. I don't want to say, but Dondozo is quite similar to that, honestly. Dondozo does give you quite a few options, quite a few win cons, quite a few ways to play around, and that's why Dondozo is quite strong, right? I'm not gonna lie. I don't exactly like Dondozo, and it's not something I'd ever lock. But for a GC setting, if you are good at Dondozo, lock Dondozo, because Dondozo is amazing for the GC. Again, the variety of sets, the variety of teams, the likelihood your opponent doesn't have a matchup into one of your extremely offensive modes is quite high. So locking something with options, even if it's Dondozo, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, perfect. Properly built Tailwind teams are another extremely good example of this. If you have a well-built Tailwind team, you will have so many options that it feels like, every game you have a new game plan to work with, right? Now, teams I'd stay away from, if I'm being completely honest, are teams like Trick Room. Now, I won't say Trick Room teams are bad, and at all, right? Again, right? I'm not trying to diss anybody. Play what you're good at, right? Don't let this dissuade you. If you're good at Trick Room, play Trick Room. But if you are not good at Trick Room, I would stay away from Trick Room, because Trick Room, especially to someone who's not extremely well versed in it, Trick Room can feel like a team that if your opponent has the correct checks, it just feels like an auto loss. If that makes sense, right? Like unlike any other team, if I have a balanced team, even if my opponent has a check, for example, a very common balance check right now is Gholdengo, right? Gholdengo has always been a balance check. At the very least, I have options against it. It's not like it's an auto loss. The thing is, against Trick Room, on Trick Room, especially if you're inexperienced, sometimes it can feel like if your opponent has the right set, like, for example, in Prison, Trick Room, Fair Draft, it can feel like if your opponent has the right set or understands the correct game plan, such as clicking substitute under Landorus, can feel like a very, very tough time for a lot of Trick Room teams. If your opponent recognizes these win conditions, it can feel extremely impossible to just win games, especially if you don't know the team. So that's my 2 cents, right? If I have to give tips and tricks on how to play the GC and how to place high, those would be my 3 tips and tricks. I hope you'll enjoy this. I just wanted to make something that I felt like, I put my knowledge out there. I put my experience from playing other GCs. I played 4 GCs now at this point. Even though I haven't played extremely well, I feel like I have learned a lot, and I feel like these tips are just extremely useful for the general. Like, I think this is just useful stuff in general. I hope y'all play in the GC, and I hope you guys, like, if you message me through Twitter, or you even let me know in the comments on this video, later video, like, how y'all doing in GC. I'd love to hear, because honestly, I think one of my favorite things about the GC is just the social aspect of it, right? Going on Twitter, and I might not oh shit, I hope I'm not exposing myself to this. Listen, I can explain. I hope I'm not exposing myself on Twitter though. But one of my favorite things to do on GC days is to go on Twitter, go on Twitch, and just watch people play. the game, because it's honestly really funny, right? Let's just be real. It is quite funny to laugh at some funny global challenge moments, right? Like it's funny I clicked on this because I was in the middle of watching this global challenge by Joseph. But yeah, honestly, I think one of the greatest things about GC is the social aspect of it. Honestly, like getting a call with your homies, playing some GC, and just talking about your games as you play them is just some of the most fun VGC I've had. So yeah, honestly, just enjoy yourselves. Honestly, not everything has to be super about points. That's kind of how I've been about the GCs. Like I've never been hyper competitive about the GCs because I've really enjoyed the social aspect of it. Anyways, I hope you all enjoy your day. I really appreciate you all for watching. I hope I didn't yap for too long. I feel like this is definitely one of my yap episodes. So I really appreciate y'all. If y'all actually here for watching this, I really appreciate y'all. See y'all in the next one.